and nobody should be your girlfriend. You deserve to die alone if that is your attitude. It's Teresa, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm back to make myself a little more unpopular. It is time to talk about the worst of the worst books of 2018. I already did a video on my most disappointing books, so if you missed that, definitely check it out, because today we're just talking about books that were just plain bad. I would even say almost objectively bad, at least in my opinion, so guess not that objective after all. The first book is The Dumb House by John Burnside, I think. It only says his surname. This book, to me, was just oversaturating the psychopath market, in my opinion. I mean, it probably came out before a lot of the popular psychopath stories or whatever, and I'm reading a lot of thrillers and mysteries, so I always encounter those very frequently. But this entire book pretty much follows a psychopath who wants to experiment on his own children by raising them in complete silence, and I just didn't care about him. Like, he's not at all redeemable in any way, shape, or form, and it's fine to be reading about unlikable characters, but I also kind of want to care about them at least somewhere. I always think it's really interesting when characters that start off unlikable develop over the course of a story, and thereby you see sides of them that kind of make you question your initial opinion of them, and I think that's always really, really cool and like such a contradictory place to put you in. But this book didn't do that at all. It didn't even attempt to do that. It was just, this is this guy, he's kind of crazy and he's doing horrible things. Full stop. And I just was so bored. I was so bored. The blurb makes it seem like it's about this experiment, and I thought that the intricacies of this experiment would be really interesting, and like how the children would be affected, and like just I wanted more focus on that, but instead it's literally just this guy's life. Like, this guy who's just kind of crazy and his life. I just did not care one bit about any of it. And I literally fell asleep, I think, like 3 times trying to read this, even though it's so short. The next book that was pretty bad was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I was debating whether I should put this in my disappointing reads, but honestly, I didn't even expect much of it, so I think this is a better place for it. This book is just the most generic YA fantasy ever, including a lot of really bad tropes. Like, not bad tropes in the sense of I don't like them, but bad in the sense of just harmful. For example, the love interest is being an enormous ass to the main character for literally the entire book. He bullies her sister, he's extremely unkind, not only like with words, but he physically harms her, he puts her in harm's way deliberately, constantly, literally without stop, and then at the end he's like, I hate you because I can't stop thinking about you, and I'm like, so that is your excuse? Are you serious? So I'm supposed to feel for you, poor you, because you can't handle emotions, so you need to be a fucking asshole for an entire book? Like, really? I'm not on board with that. I'm sorry. I don't think that's in any way like romantic or attractive or sexy or any of those stupid things. Like, it's just obnoxious, and nobody should be your girlfriend. You deserve to die alone if that is your attitude. So I kind of hated this book. You should probably watch my video on it if you want more in-depth thoughts, because I obviously filmed that like right after reading, so much more fresh in my mind. But for the most part, I was just so annoyed at everything in this book. There was also no world building, and he was just bad. Like, just not good. And on that note, I might still read the sequel because I kind of want to know what happens next, but I don't know yet, actually. I'm really not sure because it was just kind of painful. The next book is A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. I did not finish this book. I'm gonna be straight with you here. I think I read, it still has a bookmark in, I read 104 pages because I could not continue for the life of me. This book has a lot of issues. The first one is that it's blatantly trying to benefit from the popularity of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson stories. So we're supposed to believe that the main characters are the descendants of Sherlock and Watson in like the modern day. So they're probably like 3 generations or so, or 4, I don't even know, removed. But in this book, they are exactly the same person. Like, they have a carbon copy of their personality. So the author thought it would be just fine for her not to do any work on that and like literally copy paste those personalities on the descendants like 4 generations in the future, which makes so much sense. Like for example, Charlotte, the Sherlock Holmes version in this book, like plays the violin even, and she's like kind of, I don't even know, she's snarky and weird and like, I don't know, that's so unrealistic. Like I'm not even, I can't like suspend my disbelief for that, like at all. And then also the descendant of John Watson, whose name is Jamie, I think, is so weird and like such a stupidly like possessive alpha male, which is a trope I violently hate. Like for example, he doesn't know Charlotte at all. Like they meet at the prep school of all places, and he knows her for like a day when he finds out she might have slept with another guy, and he like loses his shit like for no apparent reason because he doesn't know her. They're definitely not together. Like why is he so upset? And even if they were together, it was clearly before they were together. So I don't even know. Like I could rant about this book probably forever, even though I only read 100 pages because it's that terrible. Don't read it. It's just a bastardization of a good story, and it's just blatantly copying it and trying to profit off of somebody else's hard work. So that's all I have to say about that. Let's move on. People are gonna hate me, unless I already know that I hate this book, then they might be fine with it. The next one is Illuminate by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. We all know my feelings about this. I talked about it for like an hour. I thought it was terrible. The dialogue was some of the cringiest shit I've ever read in my life. Like, who? Why do these people, like I like J. Kristoff's like Nevernight, and he's clearly a good author, but why do these two people in collaboration think that is how teenagers talk? They don't, and if they do, then I don't want to have anything to do with them. Like, people who talk like that, we're not gonna be friends. That's just not gonna happen. It is painful. It is actively painful. The book is weird. The book is gimmicky. It's just trying to be cool with like this different file format and like having a different layout and cute whatever, but it's just obnoxious. It's so terrible. And again, I have more thoughts on that. I'm not gonna go into those. Watch the video. Let's switch up genres a little bit, shall we? And this is the worst thriller that I've read this year and probably ever. If you saw my video where I rank all my thrillers that I've ever read, this was the worst. And that is The Breakdown by B.A. Paris. I thought the premise of this book sounded pretty cool. It's about like a woman driving on like an empty road at night in the woods, and she sees a car with a woman in it, and she thinks like, oh, she might be in trouble, but she doesn't really stop. And then she goes home, and the next day she hears that that woman has been murdered. So she's plagued with guilt, and story goes from there. But this book is obnoxious. It seemed like the author had a good idea, or what she thought was a good idea, on like how she wanted the mystery to work, and then she just, excluding all rational thought, made the overall story like fit that idea. She did not question that idea. She did not think about how that would look like in reality, if that would make any fucking sense, because spoiler alert, it doesn't. So it feels like she just twisted the story to fit the plot twist idea, instead of think about if the plot twist even makes sense, or if like that backstory, what's behind there, makes sense. And it was hard. It was hard to read. That book, don't enjoy it. The next one is kind of a horror novella that was kind of shit. That is Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. I ordered this on a whim because I saw the cover and I thought the premise sounded pretty cool. It's about a young Native American boy, and his father has passed away, but one night he sees what he thinks is his father in his room, and he like tries to recreate that moment, tries to meet with his ghost because he thinks that he's come back to save his little brother who suffers from seizures and like mental health issues. And so I went to this thinking it was going to be kind of spooky and kind of probably like emotional in a sense because of that subject matter, but at the end of the day it was just weird as shit. I didn't really get what was happening at some parts. It seemed very directionless, and it seemed not really to be able to build up a rapport with the reader, at least not with me. Like, I wanted to care about the characters, but then the author made decisions for the characters that in my opinion were not fitting at all. and that I really, really disliked. Especially the ending seemed to really invalidate most of the story for me, which made me a little bit angry. Plus, there's some typos, and like, it's just not well put together in general, and I just like didn't like it. Next, we have Viper Wine by Hermione Eyre. This book, again, the premise sounded good, the execution was bad. It's pretty much like the theme for most of these. This book is about a woman called Venetia Stanley, like several hundred years ago. I don't actually know what year this is set in, but I think she really lived, and she was very obsessed with her beauty, so she would do like anything that she could pretty much to preserve her youth and her beauty, including like taking this viper wine. I think it was just like viper poison or something. And I thought that was really interesting, like the concept set above it, because it was just, yeah, I enjoy historical fiction and that kind of thing. So because I can't put it better than myself about 11 months ago, I'm just gonna read you part of my Goodreads review. The amount of anachronisms, breakings of the fourth wall, and general nonsense in this book is mind-boggling. I understand it was designed this way, but that does not make it any better in my eyes. I felt like this book didn't know what it wanted to be and kept digressing from the main story. There were so many unnecessary, irrelevant points of view. It kept jumping in time and place unannounced, and most of the time I wasn't even sure what this book was trying to tell me. Obsession with beauty is timeless? Wowee! Who would have thought? I'm quite sassy in that one. But that's pretty much it. Like, I just didn't enjoy anything of it. I ended up skim reading parts of it, especially the sections that didn't directly relate to Venetia Stanley, because that was kind of the only thing I cared about. So I gave it like 1 star. It was one of the very few 1-star reviews that I had this year. It was trying to be, like, I think super clever, but it ended up just being boring and annoying, and I really didn't enjoy it. Second to last, we have Hex by Thomas Oldhuvelt. I read this for the Spookathon this year, so it's a bit more recent. This book is a ghost story, I guess. It's set in a small town that is being haunted by an 18th century ghost. It's set in the present time, but the ghost is from the 18th century. And, ow! Ow! The cat wanted to come on my lap, but she didn't withdraw her claws, so that was fun for me. Thank you very much. Ow! Stop it! It hurts. Can't you like pull those in? What happened? Okay, I think she wants to go. Feel a lot safer right now. So this is set in a small town in the US that's being haunted by an 18th century ghost, and the town have developed like a very modern surveillance system and an app to keep track of her, and some young boys of the town start messing with her because they are like just young boys and they want to mess around, basically. So that's the kind of premise, and I thought the book was, like, the premise again was interesting, but I was so bored for large portions of the book. The townspeople keep making fun of the situation with the witch, and they're never really scared themselves, and that made it really hard for me to feel any sort of scary or whatever. I don't really like funny horror, and this was kind of that. I think it was trying to be humorous, but I also didn't find it that funny, to be honest. So I just kind of was confused what I was reading here. There didn't seem to be much of a point. A lot of the characters were extremely annoying, like all of them were very unlikable, and that also didn't help. And then just overall, I was so not a fan of pretty much anything that happened in this book. It seemed kind of misogynistic at times. It just felt like not my cup of tea, and it might be somebody else's, but for me, I thought it was really, really bad. And then probably the worst book that I at least tried to read this year was The Rook by Daniel O'Malley. This is like paranormal fantasy, and it follows this woman, and she wakes up like not having any memories, but she has like a note in her pocket that she wrote to herself or something like that. And then she finds out she has like powers, and she's part of this like government agency or whatever, and it's just so bad. I tried reading. I kept trying to read it. It was the first book that I started in 2018, and it was so disappointing. I don't really know. I like didn't enjoy any of it. I didn't care about any of what was happening. I didn't like the characters. I felt confused a lot of the times. There wasn't really much world building. It seemed like just like a checklist of paranormal stuff that was just being added in for fun or whatever. And it was also kind of misogynistic as well, and I just didn't like it. I didn't feel like it. And then I started reading other people's reviews in this, and they were like, oh, it's shit. It's very bad. Don't read it. It's very bad. And so that kind of gave me the last push of motivation to stop reading it pretty much. And so that is it for the worst of 2018. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was fun for you. I always enjoy ranting about books I hate. I hope you do too. Definitely let me know if you've read any of these books and if you had similar or very different thoughts. And also let me know what is your worst book of 2018. Just like the worst of the worst. Like the bottom of the barrel. Why is it? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up, please. And subscribe to my channel for new videos every Tuesday and Friday, and mostly also Sundays now the rest of December. Click the bell notifications so you don't miss my uploads, and come back very soon for another video. Until then, have a lovely week. Bye!